Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Andrew Lind. I'm a lecturer here at the Institute for Northern Studies, and I'm going to be chairing the session this evening. Now, to get us underway this evening, I'm going to hand over to our acting director at the Institute for Northern Studies, Professor Alex Sandmark. So Alex, tell us a little bit about the Institute for Northern Studies.
Yes, welcome everybody. Good to see you here at our Discovery Day or Discovery Evening. I'm so pleased to see you all here, and I'm just going to start with a brief introduction telling us who we are, what we do, before then moving on to the rest of the program when you hear in detail about all the different courses and programs that we offer. So we are the Institute for Northern Studies, part of the University of the Highlands and Islands. We are a unique academic department, and we are dedicated to the study of the history, culture, heritage of northern regions, particularly Scotland and the wider North Atlantic world. But as you'll see, we reach wide into the rest of the world as well. And our aim is to provide world-leading research and teaching in all these different areas. And it's something that we very much enjoy doing. So as part of all this, we also have a very strong community engagement. We work a lot with businesses, societies, schools across the region. And in this way, our research not only then contributes to academic knowledge, but it also benefits wider society. We have a lot of projects involve collaboration with museums and heritage organizations, etc., in order to help them preserve and interpret the history of our regions. And we really very much welcome our students to take part in these activities too. So we were first established in 2007, and we have grown steadily since then. We now have campuses in 3 places, in Orkney, Shetland and Perth, so in the Northern Isles and also then on the Scottish mainland. And we have built a strong reputation for our very specialised and interdisciplinary research approach. We have 14 staff members now and have established connections with universities throughout the world in both in the northern and southern hemispheres. We also have a number of associate research members from across the university who work with us, and also an ever-growing portfolio of visiting professors and fellows, meaning that we continuously add to our staff base. Our teaching is our keys and one of our key strengths. So we offer a range of undergraduate and postgraduate programs. You'll hear all about them, from our BA to MLit programs. Something that's particularly important is our flexible learning model. That means it's possible for you to study in person from all 3 campuses if you want, depending on circumstances, or you can study from home. So we have students from all different parts of the world and taking part in live lectures, if that's possible. If you can't manage that, then perhaps because of work or perhaps you're in a different time zone, then all lectures are recorded and you can catch up later. We provide reading materials and library facilities all online. Something that we're also very proud of is our small class sizes. And we managed to build a very strong student community, even if not all students are in the same room or even in the same building. And we really keep in close contact with our students and giving you as a personal experience as possible. In addition to the undergraduate and the MLit programs, we have a number of research programs we hear about, PhD programs and Masters by Research. And that will give you, of course, the opportunity to work very closely with some of our specialist staff members. So to conclude, I think we are a very distinctive academic institute, and we really pride ourselves on strong delivery of teaching and research, and to provide a welcoming and very supportive environment for our students.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alex. Now, I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Lynn Campbell, who's going to tell us a little bit about the undergraduate provision and the other courses that we offer at the Institute for Northern Studies.
Yes, hello there. Now, as you will see from me, I am based at UHI Orkney, and as such, I thought it was time that we offered something in INS that wasn't just based around a degree programme. And for the first time this winter, we will be offering a night class, which is just called History of Orkney in 100 Sites. And we'll be looking at people as well. I kind of like this image. And it's just an introduction to what we're able to offer you at UHI. It means that you can stay at home, but you can still learn about something which you didn't actually know that you had any interest in. And this is what I'm kind of calling these introductory slides a bit of a gateway drug into the kind of thing that we are able to offer you at INS. This night class is just 10 classes. It starts in September. Not written it yet, but I will have it written by the time it starts. And if you move on to the next page, please, Andrew, because the thing that I keep on telling students, and I think I'm going to have it tattooed on my forehead at one point, is that you don't know what you don't know. Now, this is a really stupid thing to say until you realise the kind of thing that I teach. The kind of thing that I teach is on the undergraduate programme that we offer, Culture and Heritage. Now, Alex said that we started in 2007. We did, with the programme that I'm now in charge of. But we offer other things. So it's not just degree programmes that we offer. If you are wanting to get back into studies, or you're wanting to get into studies for the first time, then we can offer you something which can just offer you a taster to see whether or not you want to move into something, whether you want to turn that into a single programme, or if you want to go on further to the postgraduate and even further things that we can offer you in INS. Now, the one thing that, as well as the night class, is that we offer single modules. And we're going to offer you 2 single modules from the undergraduate programme, and that 2 modules are called Scotland's Music and Displaying the Past Museum Studies, which is on the next slide, please, Andrew. And they are modules which are offered in the first year and the second year of the undergraduate programme. And if you want to get in to study, but you're not just sure if you really want to study a whole degree programme, or if you're not too sure where you want your interests to take you, then these act as an introduction to the kind of thing that the undergraduate programme will offer you. Scotland's Music is a module which runs before Christmas. Now, this undergraduate programme is made up of 6 modules per academic year, and there are 3 or 4 years of the programme, depending on what qualification you want to get. And you would do 3 modules before Christmas, 3 modules afterwards, if you're a full-time student. Now, if you're a part-time student, then you would do different number of modules, fewer, less, or whatever suits you. But this would offer us a complete introduction to the kind of thing that we offer. And if you are not too interested in doing an actual full degree, then I also offer you a single year's programme. It's called a Certificate of Higher Education, a CERT-HE, and I call it, if you move on to the next slide, please, Andrew, and it is the Highland Heritage for Tourism. Now, that acts as an introduction to everything Highland. I will introduce you to a bit of archaeology, a bit of the natural environment, a bit of history, the things that I have listed there. And the entire team that's on the call today will actually teach on that programme. And it means that you're getting world-class lecturers giving you introductions to these things. And that comes back to the slide where I said, you don't know what you don't know. You maybe think, I maybe know a wee bit about history, but I could know more. And I didn't actually know that about that particular bit of flora and fauna in the area where I live. Myths and legends, wow, I was really blown away by that story. And it always surprises me when students come back and they say, well, I really like this element and I really didn't like that element. And when a student told me last year that they found that the myths and the legends part was their least favourite, I thought, oh, how could that possibly be? But we're all so different. And that's the point of these programmes, these introductory programmes. It's a foot in the water, well, a whole foot rather than just a toe, of things that you might like to take a bit further. And that takes me into the degree programme, of which I am the programme leader for, Culture and Heritage. Now, this is a 4-year programme if you do it full time to get the honours qualification. You can graduate after 3 years with a BA, a Bachelor of Arts programme. And Culture and Heritage, what does that mean? Well, it's kind of a bit like it says what it does what it says on the tin, and it covers lots and lots of things and stuff. And I created this really bad AI image because I think it kind of incorporates many of the things that the programmes actually try to teach you, except that we do it in a much better way rather than the AI tries to offer you. And I've got listed there, you can see archaeology, criminology, history, literature, politics, sociology, theology, Gaelic studies. The way that the programme runs now is that you will study 3 modules in first year and second year, which belong solely to culture and heritage. And many of the people on this call teach on those particular modules. But you also get to choose 3 more modules from other programmes within the humanities scheme. And these modules, this list here rather, this is the modules you get to choose from. It is possible to do a single honour, which is Culture and Heritage, BA owns, or you could do a joint honour, so Culture, Heritage and Archaeology, Culture, Heritage and Criminology. And you can mix and match, and it means that you've got an enormous amount of flexibility in the kinds of things that you want to learn. And it means that you take full control of your learning process. And one thing we are so very good at doing in UHI is supporting our students, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your educational background is, no matter what your familial background is. We will do everything in our power to help you get the education that you want and that you deserve. And I was speaking to a student this morning on the phone, and she told me that when she was at school, not when she was at school, when she was studying first time round, shortly after coming out of school, she kind of took it for granted, and she did the barest minimum at university, but returning as an adult to education, she understood the huge privilege that we have in this country, in Scotland, to be able to attend full-time education, to have the fees paid, and in fact sometimes many of my undergraduate students are also eligible for a grant of money to help them study. But it meant that she could fully understand the wonderfulness, I think is the best way to describe it, not only of the content of the programme that she was studying, but also the world-class lecturers who she was actually being taught by, some of whom are on the call tonight. And we bandy this around a lot, world-class, but honestly, many of the people that work within UHI have lectured across the world in other universities that have gained large grants of money and have created huge projects which have contributed to knowledge exchange throughout our era, throughout our sector, throughout our geographic area, throughout education. And it means that you're getting top-class education from our department. And we look at so many different things. I mean, the list that I have listed there of the single and the joint honours, it means that you as a student, you can pick from different disciplines. So you can do a module on archaeology before Christmas and a module on theology after Christmas. And just think how much that's going to expand your education and your way of thinking, the way that you think about where you live. And because we're based in the Highlands and Islands, we do look at the Highlands and Islands in our teaching, but we look outside. We don't live in isolation. We do understand that the Highlands and Islands are, of course, part of a bigger thing. But one of the things that I always say to my students is that the further north that you get in Scotland, the more the history changes. And when you get to Orkney and Shetland, nobody really teaches that, except us. We do. We'll teach you about that. But then, of course, the further west you go, you're not going to get much of that kind of teaching either in the mainstream universities, but you will at UHI. And even the people who live down in Perth, the dark country, the very edge of the Highlands, it's different to the people that live in the Central Belt and down in the borders, because Scotland's culture, heritage, industry, the way of thinking changes the further north you go. And because we're based in this area, because we live this area, because we think and breathe and enjoy this area so much, we are the best placed to teach you about this area. So if you've got any interest, then we are the guys to get in touch with. If you've never thought about higher education, then we can offer you the introductory modules, the night class, a toe in the water, the single modules, maybe a foot in the water. The start HE, you'd be in the water up to your knees at that point. But once you start looking at culture and heritage with the actual degree programme, then you're fully immersed in our educational programme. And sometimes once you get started, you can't really stop, which is what the rest of this evening is all about. So I will hand you back to Andrew, who is going to talk to you about the many other things that we are able to offer you within INS.
Super, thanks very much, Lynn. So we're now going to have a look at that further provision that Lynn's alluded to, which is our MLIT programmes, our postgraduate top programmes, and then we'll also talk a little bit about our postgraduate research programs as well. So the first program that we're going to mention is the Highlands and Islands Literature MLit. And our colleague, Dr. Paul Mulgrady, was going to be here tonight to tell you a little bit more about this programme, but unfortunately couldn't be here. But because at UHI we support all types of learning, and that includes live teaching, but also asynchronous teaching, where you would watch recordings of lectures, we thought this is a great opportunity to show you a little bit of what that's like in practice. So through the marvel of Microsoft Teams, we actually have Paul with us this evening, and I'll hand over to him.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Paul Mulgrady, one of the lecturers in the Highlands and Islands Literature MLit, and I'd like to tell you a few things about this master's programme. It is a perfect MLit for anyone interested in literature in general, but also with the Highlands and Islands, Highland culture, the north of Scotland and Scotland in general. We cover a broad range of topics in this master's, from medieval Gaelic literature to romantic and Enlightenment visions of the Highlands, the development of literary tourism at the start of the 19th century. We've also got a module in there to do with the Gothic novel in Scotland, you know, for people who may like castles and ghostly figures swiftly perceived in dark forests at night in the Highlands, typically. I also teach writers in plays, which takes us more into the modern contemporary era of Highland writing with more experimental perceptions of the Highlands and Islands in literature. Creative writing is also a possibility as part of this MLit. So for students with a creative flair, we'd like to marry that with some, you know, scholarship, essay writing, critical analysis. Well, that is a perfect master's if you're in this situation. If you're interested in island studies and literature, if you're interested in the different languages of Scotland, Scots, Gaelic and English, Orcadian, Shetlandic, then this is also a great choice for you. If you're interested in environmental studies from an artistic, cultural, literary perspective, you will also really enjoy this module. I'd just like to finish to share with you a recent student story. Jane Merton Armour, who lives in Wick, you know, in the top north of the Scottish mainland. She did the Masters last year in 2024-2025. She had a great time. She enjoyed the creative writing component, but she certainly enjoyed our MLit dissertation, which she did on Neil Gunn, the 20th century Highland writer, and his relationship to the sea and the shore, and how he describes the sea and the shore and the seafarers in his novels. Jane wrote a beautiful dissertation on that topic, and she's pursued it at a higher level, at an MRes level, which is just a bigger dissertation, essentially, a sort of stepping stone between the MLit and the PhD. And now she's looking at ways to do a PhD in the future with us on Neil Gunn. Just to show you, you know, that this MLit is also part of a clear progression journey into research, teaching, and academia, should you wish to choose us, which I hope you will do, and I hope just these few words will have piqued the interest of some of you. So thanks for listening to that.
There we go, and Paul will be back with us shortly when he talks about that in a little bit more detail. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Professor Andrew Jennings, who's going to tell us about island studies.
Thank you, Andrew, and hello everyone. I'm the most northerly member of the INS staff, as I'm based in Shetland, hence the Gansey. So, what makes an island community thrive? How do islands assert their voices in an interconnected world? These are the sorts of questions we address in the MLit in Island Studies, which is the only dedicated taught postgraduate degree of its kind in Scotland, the UK, and sort of worldwide. There are very few of these. So the programme invites you into the growing global field of Nisology, the study of islands on their own terms. It's led by me, and it's taught from within the Scottish Islands themselves. And it draws on the expertise of INS staff and also of academics from various islands and island groups across the world. The programme begins with the question, what does it actually mean to live on or in an island? And from Atlantis to Utopia, the nature of islandness explores that existential quality shared by island communities despite their vastly different individual cultures and geographies. It's a philosophical, sociological, literary, and cultural inquiry that sets the tone for everything that follows in the degree. And from this broad exploration, we move into, from Muckleflugga to Plada, the Scottish Islands. And this brings things closer to home, taking a comparative, multidisciplinary look at the cultures, identities, the languages, literatures, and politics of the Hebrides, Orkney, and Shetland, and the islands from which this degree is taught. The programme engages directly with the political and economic challenges facing island communities today. The module Governance in Small Islands asks whether islands are well served by the metropoles that often govern them, comparing models from Shetland's local authority to island nation states like Malta, and explores the question of how much self-government should small islands aspire to. The Island Tourism module, Selling Cold Islands, tackles the booming and complicated phenomenon of island tourism in cooler climates. Iceland now attracts over 3 million visitors a year, and between 150 and 200,000 cruise passengers visit Orkney each season. What exactly is being sold to the visitors? What pressures does this place on fragile island communities? And what lessons can be drawn? Well, we explore all these questions. The programme also concludes with a 60 degree, that's where I'm living, 6 degrees north, a 60 credit dissertation, which is an original independent investigation into a topic of your own choosing. And recent students have explored what makes a successful island university curriculum, crime novels set on tidal islands, and whether Cornwall should be regarded as an island. This is a degree that will empower you to engage seriously with the futures of island communities worldwide. So I'm hoping that I can inspire you to join the team. And if island studies is not your thing, then perhaps Viking studies could be. Are you drawn to the world of explorers, seafarers, and settlers who shaped the northern edges of medieval Europe? Well, the MLit in Viking Studies offers a rigorous interdisciplinary route into the history, archaeology, and culture of the Viking and early medieval period. It's led by internationally recognized specialists, including Dr. Shane MacLeod, Professor Stefan Brink, and Professor Alexandra Sandmark herself, and it's open to students anywhere in the world. The programme spans the full sweep of the Viking Age in Scotland. You begin by grounding yourself in the physical evidence, taking Vikings in Scotland and the Irish Sea region, which is a comparative study of Norse settlement, burial, and ritual across Scotland and the Irish Sea from AD 790 to 1266, tracing how Viking communities put down roots and transformed the societies around them. Alongside this, discovering the past gives you the methodological toolkit you'll need throughout the programme, introducing the interdisciplinary approaches, archaeological, historical, literary, that underpin modern Viking scholarship. And from there, the programme opens out into some of the most compelling questions in the field. Gender in Viking society, warriors, travellers, and farmers moves beyond the familiar warrior stereotype to examine the full range of lives, women's and men's, through saga literature, chronicles, poems, and archaeological evidence. Vikings in the Landscape then takes you into the Viking homelands, exploring Scandinavian society and the pagan religious world in depth, and showing why understanding Scandinavia itself is essential to understanding the Vikings' impact abroad. The programme also insists that the Viking story did not end in the Middle Ages. The optional module Visualising the Vikings examines how images of the Norse, the brutal barbarian, the berserker, the proto-capitalist hero, took root in Western culture, and asks why they remain so powerful. From Wagner to heavy metal, from Hollywood to comic books, you'll compare myth and the reality revealed by archaeology and medieval history, drawing on gender studies, psychology, and philosophy to ask Why do some now idolize those most described as a most vile people? Still a question I don't have an answer to. Students with a particular passion for language can pursue the optional module Mimer's Well, which gives a thorough grounding in Old Norse across the period AD 800 to 1300 and covers some runes, agro-literature, law and poetry in both the original and translation. The other optional module, Celts and Vikings in Contact, explores the remarkable cultural syntheses that emerged when Norse settlers encountered Gallic peoples across the British Isles and in Iceland, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland, drawing again on archaeology, folklore, genetics, place names, and literature. And if Picts are your thing, we have another optional module, Picts Revealing the Painted Past, which offers an interdisciplinary examination of Scotland's enigmatic Pictish culture. And it's a fascinating complement to the Norse story. Like the other masters, the programme culminates in a 60-credit dissertation, which is a substantial original investigation into a topic of your own choosing. And recent students have researched the Viking heritage of Yorkshire, Viking-themed video games, and pre-Norse Christianity in Shetland. I certainly believe that this is a degree which will transform how you understand the Viking world and its long shadow that it casts over our own. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Excellent. And now I'm going to hand over to my other colleague, Oisin Plum, who's going to tell us about the Scottish Heritage Emlet.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And Andrew Lind, just a few minutes ago, used a wonderful word asynchronous in another context. And the Scottish Heritage Emlet is a little different from the other emlets we offer because this is run as an asynchronous module. So rather than having weekly seminars that you can either dial into live or watch the recordings later, as with our other emlets, this program is entirely taught online, and the reason being for that is it is absolutely available and fits around anybody's time frame, regardless of your work pattern, regardless of where you are in the world. What happens with the Scottish Heritage Emlet is every week different materials are released, including pre-recorded introductory lectures, reading materials, discussion boards, and it allows you to tackle the work at your own pace whenever is convenient for you. So that's how it's delivered, but what's it all about? Well, as you might imagine, the heritage of Scotland sits right at the heart of this programme. We cover a huge array of different aspects of Scottish heritage. One of them, or amongst them, history and archaeology. Now, this spans an enormous amount of time and really gives you an opportunity to really get to grips with the immense length of story that the people of Scotland have played a part in. Through the Scotland Story modules, parts 1 and parts 2, we chart the story of the people of Scotland from the Mesolithic, where we get our very earliest evidence for built structures that people in Scotland created following the retreat of the ice, all the way through the Neolithic with the creation of wonderful monuments such as the Ring of Brodgar and the Skara Brae, through the Iron Age, into the historic period, into the coming of writing in Scotland, where we can start to actually read the words of people themselves. So the first part of Scotland's story follows the story of the people of Scotland from the Mesolithic to the Middle Ages. The second part takes up that story and follows the people of Scotland all the way to the modern day. So it's a wonderful way of getting a really good overview of Scotland's past through the history, archaeology, place names, literature, all sorts of different types of evidence. Another fabulous aspect of the Scottish Heritage Lit is the customs modules, Scotland's customs, traditional beliefs and folklore. And that gets to grips, if the Scotland's story got to grips with the narratives of the people of Scotland and the story of Scotland, the customs module really gets to grips with its heart and its soul. What makes Scotland Scotland? What is it that makes the culture unique? And that covers everything from folklore to traditions, and really is a fascinating insight into what people felt and believed, and the stories that they told throughout time. We also have a pair of modules called Scotland's Voice 1 and 2. And this is, I think, they're really aptly named because these modules, though entirely distinct, really complement each other in the way that the Scots have presented themselves and their voice. In the first module, we look at the literature and poetry of the people of Scotland. And again, a wonderful way to introduce everything from the classic works of James Hogg and Robert Burns to more modern 20th and 21st century literature. So that's a really great way to understand the way that people have expressed themselves through writing throughout Scotland's history. It's complemented by Scotland's Voice 2, which is all about the music and the song. So in songs, like poetry, we have written and verbal expression of people telling their story through words. But we also have music as well, which can, of course, be sung, but also played through instruments. And it talks about the development of Scotland's music, not just traditional music, but other forms of music as well, and the way that Scotland has expressed itself musically throughout the years. So throughout the Scottish Heritage Lit, we use many, many different types of evidence. And crucially, we explore the ways in which we should best understand the evidence as well. Sometimes what we have are little scraps of a note in a chronicle, or a line of poetry, or a little piece of music and nothing else. And we've got to try and stitch these all together and kind of work out how we best understand what they're trying to tell us. And through the module Discovering the Past, which has been alluded to before, as it's shared with a number of other programs, we will examine the skills needed to understand all sorts of different types of evidence, whether written or material, whether that be archaeology or understanding sculpture, or any type of the many types of evidence that we engage with when we're looking at Scotland's varied and rich past. As with the other degree programmes, we finish off with a dissertation, and this really is the chance for you to hone in to a topic that you have found fascinating and want to look at in more detail. And this can be on anything at all. You could do it on 1980s pop music and its role in protest, or you could do it on the history of the Scottish bagpipe, or you could do it in Mesolithic archaeology. The floor really is yours, and the plethora of options really reflect the extensive scope of the Scottish Heritage Lit. And with that, I will pass back to Andrew.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Soshin. Now, the last Lit programme is also our newest. It is the Early Modern European Studies Lit. So this launched in 2025, and essentially this programme is the study of Europe and the lives of Europeans throughout the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries. And that story takes us right across the early modern world, from Amsterdam and Edinburgh all the way to Baghdad and Macau. What makes this programme unique is that it is inherently and fundamentally multidisciplinary, as many of our programs are here at INS. But EMES, as it's known for short, is also taught from members of staff from the Institute for Northern Studies, as well as staff from the Centre for History, the Archaeology Institute, Highlands Theological College, and the Literature and Drama Department. Across the core modules and the optional modules, we specialise in particular on the Northern world, Northern Europe, but also on the themes of war and society and communities and identities. Now, what that essentially does for our students is that it allows them to access the full experience of what life in Europe and as a European felt like, looked like, and what that experience was across the time period. And that includes being exposed to different source bases, different methods, and of course, different historical debates. Now, like the other MLIT programs, the EMES program has been designed with the student in mind and is available fully online, both in live or asynchronous modes. It's available full-time or part-time or even on a module by module basis. And that flexibility is key for the modules too. And as I mentioned, you'll study 3 core modules, but then you'll also get to pick from a very large list of optional modules which come from the different contributing departments. So that means that you can really cater your program to your interests and ensures that you have the time and the scope to focus on areas which are a particular interest to you. And that, of course, leads into the research dissertation, which EMES has as well, where you will work very closely with a member of staff who will be an expert in the area that you're researching to develop your very own research topic. Now, that is the end of our MLIT provision, our postgraduate top provision. But as well as being the program leader for the EMES program, I'm also head of postgraduate research at the Institute for Northern Studies. And we offer, under this umbrella, programs like our Masters by Research and, of course, our PhD programs. And at the time of recording, we are actually the second largest department in terms of postgraduate research students within the University of the Highlands and Islands. We currently have 36 students, but that number is growing and will be growing over the next couple of months. And much like our MLIT programs, our postgraduate research programs are designed to be flexible and with the student's experience in mind. And the result of that is that of those 36 postgraduate research students, they are based quite literally right across the world, doing their programs at a pace which suits them. So that includes the likes of Jim, who's bottom left of that photo there with the bagpipes. He's currently based in the Canadian Rockies. We've got Christian, who's standing for rather proud of his new motorbike there. He's based in Bali. And we've also got students based at our campuses, including the likes of Amanda, who's based in Perth, and Maureen, who's based in Shetland. Now, just because you're based all over the world doesn't mean that you're working in isolation, and we're really proud within UHI, but particularly within the Institute for Northern Studies, for supporting our research community and our research culture. So that means that when you're conducting your research, and a lot of our students who come in through the undergraduate or MLIT programs decide that they get the bug and they'd quite like to stay on for our postgraduate research programs as well. But once you become part of that community, you're very much working with others who are in the same boat as you, even if you're located actually on a different continent to them. And through things like online seminars, research groups and networks, it means that you can maintain those bonds and really important connections no matter where you're based anywhere in the world. And what we also pride ourselves on at the Institute for Northern Studies is really supporting our students. It's at the core of everything we do at the University of the Highlands and Islands. And that means that it's not just about your research, which obviously you'll receive world-class support in conducting through supervisors, but also through supporting you to become a researcher. And with that in mind, what skills do you need to develop? What experiences do you need to gain to make sure that you're in the place that you need to be at the end of your program to pursue whatever career or exit route that you want to go down? Now, those opportunities look different to different people. So if you're really into archaeology, don't worry, you will find yourself in a trench at some point. And this is just an example from a recent excavation, I think in Consey, and Alex will correct me if I'm wrong there. But that also includes opportunities like postgraduate teaching on our other programs, and of course, presenting and publishing academic work. And the other two photos on the screen are just two recent examples from our recent St Magnus International Conference, which was hosted at UHI Perth and organised by the department, and two of our fantastic PhD students there, Claire and Tara, who were presenting. Now, I mentioned research networks and research communities there, and before we start to wrap up the session this evening, we're going to very briefly talk to you about actually what some of those groups and networks look like. And the first that we're going to mention is REMRA, or the Renaissance and Early Modern Research Alliance, and unsurprisingly, this is a group that I'm a member of. But I join over 30 members of staff and students from right across the university, from the different departments, from different disciplines, who are all researching or have an interest in the early modern period. And I should stress that this is a staff student group. So whether you are on our MLit programme, the Early Modern European Studies programme, whether you're a PhD or a member of staff, this is a really good collaborative collegiate group that have regular meetings that come together and discuss their own research, interesting news that's happening in the world of early modern studies, but also we host regular events, including our recent completely online international conference, which was in June last year, called Northern Narratives, and we'll hopefully be hosting another one of them next year. And now I'll hand over to Oshin again, who's going to tell us about the Viking and Early Medieval Studies group.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Now, if REMRA is a little bit too modern and recent for your likings, we have Viking and Early Medieval Studies, and this is like REMRA, this is a network of both staff and students. Not exclusive. You can and should, of course, engage with both REMRA and VEMS. Our hub at VEMS really is UHI Perth, where we have a very strong research staff and research student community, but we have a presence everywhere that we have INS on campus, and we have medieval colleagues in Orkney, or colleagues with medieval interests in Orkney and in Shetland as well, and we have research students based all around the world. So though we do have in-person events, including our wonderful VEM Symposium each October in Perth, and various different workshops throughout the year that are in person in Perth, particularly for postgraduate research students. We do also have online events as well, and I think particular highlights are events where we allow different research students the opportunity to showcase their work to others within the department as well, and that can be a really nice informal way to set out new ideas that you're just exploring in your research and get feedback in a really nice, friendly, informal environment. It really is a wonderful research community. It's fantastic that we have so many scholars of all aspects of the early medieval world. Viking studies is, of course, a particular strength, but it's not the only medieval area that we have students and research staff interested in. So it is always wonderful to see what new people bring to the table when they come along and join us. I should mention as well that VEMS hosts not one but two academic book series as well. So we have the brand new Vikings and Early Medieval Studies series hosted with Breppels, and our first volume is imminently going to be published there, so we're very excited about that. But we also have our now much more long-standing North Atlantic World book series, which Alex will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're probably approaching double figures of volumes with that. Yes, emphatic nod there, which and between them they cover a broad range of topics, covering not just the early medieval world, but the medieval world more generally, and with a particular focus in the northern world and Europe more broadly as well. So If you are interested in publishing a book or contributing to a book, then please do get in touch with us as well, because that is another aspect of what we do at VEMS. And myself or Alex or any of our colleagues would be happy to answer any questions about that once we get to the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Oisin. And now we're heading back over to Island Studies. So Andrew's going to tell us a little bit about this research hub.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, so the Island Studies Hub, this is where we try and put the field of island studies into action. We call it a hub because we do more than just house research. We believe we're a dynamic nexus that connects leading academics with island communities to try and address urgent challenges and build resilient futures together. We've been involved in a number of research projects like the HERINDEP, Heritage in Depopulated European Areas, where we focused on Shetland and how intangible cultural heritage can be used to address questions of demography. I ran a series of workshops called Scottish Island Futures 2050 and Beyond. These initiatives don't just enhance our understanding of island societies and cultures, but they also, as I say, help address current and future issues that we're coming up against in the islands. We organise a series of Faroes Shetland Research Symposia, which are strengthening ties between Shetland and the Faroe Islands. These seminars, symposia rather, are open to all to attend, and they're recorded as well. So we've got we're building up a collection of these, which you can see on the INS YouTube channel. We also run the Islands Matter public online seminars, which address a whole range of island issues. We go from culture to politics to the environment to you name it. We have a whole range of fascinating talks, again available online for you to look at. Members of the INS and members of the Islands Hub are involved in the University of the Arctic Thematic Network, Northern and Arctic Island Studies Research, and that connects us to scholars and researchers from the Finnish archipelago right across the North Atlantic, the Faroes, Iceland, Greenland, and Canada. And we've held a number of workshops through the thematic network, and also we ran it's called the Inaugural Interdisciplinary Symposium 2025, which was looking at the future of Northern and Arctic islands, which again is available for your edification and delight. And one of the fun things that we do with the hub is that we also run Yarns and Yarns, which is a virtual knitting and storytelling circle around the north, which engages with groups of knitters who tell us why they like knitting, whether that's in Newfoundland or in the Faroe Islands, and they share knitting stories and research into wool and sheep and those sorts of things. So the Islands Hubs allows us to undertake very high quality research, but also engage with local island communities. So go online and look us up. And when we have our next webinars, please join us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew. And the last group that we're going to speak about tonight is the language, literature and heritage, I should say. And Paul's back and he's going to tell us a little bit about this.
Hello again, Paul Magratti here to tell you a little bit about the research we do at INS in language, literature and heritage. We've developed quite a broad portfolio in these areas over the years. Within the department, we've got Professor Donna Heddle, who is a specialist of medieval and early modern Scottish literature, as well as Orcadian literature. I myself work more specifically on modern and contemporary Scottish and Highland literature. Both Donna and I love researching and, talking about questions of literature and languages in Scotland, the relationship between English, Scots, Gaelic, Orcadian, Shetlandic, the Doric languages, so all of that is really part of our work, and often the work we do in literature will also embrace languages and questions of linguistics as well, and questions of minority languages. My work, as I was saying, is more modern and contemporary. I have done quite a bit of work on Robert Burns, on Scots language literature, working class literature in Scotland. I'm also very interested at the moment in questions of national identity in Scottish and Highlands literature, and the international circulation footprint of Scottish literature in the wider world. Indeed, Donna and I are currently working on an edited volume to do with France and Scotland in literature and their literary connection over the centuries. Being French myself, this is a subject that's very close to my heart, and I'm delighted that we're currently working on that. Beyond Donna and I in literature, we are also accompanied by a number of colleagues, also teaching in the MLit in Highlands and Islands literature. Mandy Haggith is someone that you may come across in your studies here. She is a creative writer, an acclaimed poet and non-fiction writer. And so, yes, especially for those of you interested in creative writing, in pursuing creative writing at postgraduate level or at PhD level, Mandy could be a good point of contact. So can I. I've also got a book of poems out there in mixing the Scots language and French. So yes, we welcome MRes dissertations, PhD dissertation in any of the topics that I've mentioned in Scottish literature, Highland literature, the connection between Scotland, Ireland, and or Scandinavia in literature, as well as creative writing. We're very active on all of these fronts, and it'd be lovely to hear from more of you on these topics.
There we go. Thank you, Paul. Right.
Hello again, Paul.
And I'll hand back to Oshin, who's going to tell us a little bit about the summer courses.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And I think this is the only thing that we're showing you today that isn't available online, because it's what's becoming a fast becoming favourite annual fixture in the INS calendar, is our residential summer courses in Perth UHI's campus. These occur in mid-June and they last for 5 days from Monday to Friday, and they bring together a mixture of talks and visits to sites throughout central Scotland, which are related to the themes we explore through the talks, and also a variety of evening events as well, which can include reenactors, storytellers, always finishing with a ceilidh at the end of the week. They are really good, fun ways to get to know a bit more about Scotland's heritage, history and culture, whilst meeting new people and making new friends and exploring interesting places. So this takes place every June, and we have a different theme every year. We are fast approaching the third iteration of the UHI Perth summer courses. We began to host summer courses in Perth in 2024 with Rulers and Raiders, Celts and Vikings in central Scotland. Then last year we had The Birth of Scotland, Celtic and Viking Legacies and the Forging of a New Kingdom. And this year we are very excited to introduce something completely different: Stories Written in Stone, the people who built Scotland. Now, what that is all about is telling the story of Scotland's people through the buildings in which they lived and worked. So we have as the centerpieces of our discussions the ruined castles and abbeys of Scotland's past, but also the ordinary houses and the industrial buildings that people more recently have lived in. We will begin most of our days with lectures in the morning exploring a different theme, whether that be kingship and power, faith and belief, rural life, or work and industry. We'll then visit places within Scotland's landscape that relate to those themes. And as I've said before, we always finish the day with evening events, whether that be talks exploring those themes or storytellers telling the tales of people in Scotland, or on the final day we have a ceilidh. They are always really, really great fun, and we have had a few repeat visitors, which is always great, and to get to know people coming back. They are open to all of the general public. You don't have to be a student at INS or at UHI more generally. We sometimes do get students who are based far afield who decide, you know what, I actually want to go and spend a week on campus and get to know people. Not only do you get to know your fellow students, you get to meet the staff who've been lecturing you as well if you do that as a student, but you can be utterly unconnected with UHI and just fancy learning about something exciting for a week. These are not credit-bearing courses, which means you don't have to do any pesky essays or tests or anything. You are just coming here for the fun of it. So with that, I will just finish by pointing out that we only have 2 spaces left for the for this year's course. We always aim to fill a minibus, so they're not so large that you can get to you don't get to speak to everyone, but it's large enough that it's always a diverse crowd of people. So if you want to be one of those 2 people, then please do send me an email. I believe all of our emails are available at the end of this talk. And if June 2026 is a little bit late notice for you, keep your eyes peeled for our announcement of the 2027 topic, which will be something different and again showcase Scotland and its wonderful places and its wonderful people in interesting and innovative ways. So with that, I will hand back to Andrew.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, you've heard a lot about what we offer here at the Institute for Northern Studies, and you've heard us tell you a lot of information about that. But what we thought we'd do as a kind of rounding off point for this evening is give you some of the student stories and student experiences from those who have taken our programmes. And I promise that no money was exchanged in getting these reviews of our programmes. These are all just some of our recent MLit graduates. And like I mentioned earlier on, quite a lot of our MLit graduates tend to stick around for our postgraduate research offering as well, which you'll notice on some of the slides ahead. So the first student showcase is that of Jessica Payne, who is on the Early Modern European Studies programme. And she wrote that as an international student living in Canada, I initially expected the 8-hour time difference to be a challenge, but the teaching staff have removed all barriers by being so accommodating and flexible. The structure of the modules feels intentional as they provided me with the necessary foundation of the early modern period from differing perspectives, which allowed me to discover and develop my own academic interests. It's due to this programme that I have grown significantly in my capabilities as an academic writer and researcher, and this growth is entirely thanks to the teaching staff, who are not only incredibly knowledgeable, but also approachable, encouraging, and genuinely invested in their students. The EMES programme has had a lasting impact on my academic career, for which I am deeply grateful. Our next student showcase is Linda Johnson-Bell, who is a graduate from our Island Studies MLit and a current PhD student supervised by myself and Andrew Jennings. And Linda wrote, the MLit Island Studies offered an interdisciplinary deep dive into the symbolic, political and lived experiences of island life, from mythical lost worlds to the contemporary branding of northern cold island destinations, inviting consideration of the context of over-tourism and climate change. It reshaped my previous understanding of place and belonging, as well as the relationship between environment, identity and society. Intellectually stimulating, well taught and boldly relevant, its modules fueled my inspiration for my dissertation topic. What I thought would be a niche subject turned out to be a boundless sea of ideas. The modules revealed the astonishing depth and diversity within the field of island studies. The research component was also exceptional. It gave me the chance to thoroughly explore a subject I was passionate about with strong guidance throughout the process. Next up, we have Shanna Bryman, who is another graduate, this time from the Viking Studies MLit, and she has just a couple of weeks ago completed her Viva for her PhD as well. And Shanna said, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, about as far from the Scottish Highlands as you can get. I have since moved to Scotland to complete my doctoral thesis, making her story, evaluating female leadership in the Viking Age. My thesis argues that Viking Age women exercised real leadership in political, military, household and economic domains, and that scholarship has largely missed it because of lingering androcentric assumptions from the Victorian era. It has been the most challenging and rewarding thing I have ever done. I have spoken about this research at conferences in Berlin, Lincoln, Liverpool, Edinburgh, and at the International Medieval Congress in Leeds. I have excavated on Colonsay with the Norse in the Sea project and participated in the Govan Stones project in Glasgow. I have given lectures for UHI in the forms of modules, summer schools, and the INS public seminar series, and I was even interviewed by BBC Shetland, which is of course the highest honour one can achieve. And our final student showcase is Matthew Farran, another one of our Viking Studies MLit graduates. Now, Matthew is quite unique because he not only did our MLit programme, he then went on and continued his dissertation topic and developed it further in the MRes programme, and then decided that he hadn't had enough and then developed that further into a PhD topic. And Matthew said that studying with INS means being part of an active research community, right on the vanguard of our knowledge and understanding of the history, society and cultures of the North. Expect to benefit from not yet published scholarship from world-leading experts and a dynamic research environment, including a packed calendar of symposia, seminars, public lectures and conferences. This programme, alongside whichever degree you're taking, really extends and expands the learning experience and is something INS does exceptionally well. I'm currently undertaking my third degree with the department and I have never regretted a moment of it. And that's a perfect note on which to draw things to a close this evening for the formal information part of the session. I'm just going to leave this on the screen just now. This is just the contact details for the programme leaders for the courses that you've heard a little bit about this evening. And please do, if you've got any questions or interest or you just want some more information, there's information available on the Institute for Northern Studies website, but don't hesitate to get in contact by dropping one of us an email because we'd be more than happy to have a chat with you.